pleasure to be joined by Paul Hogan, legendary coach here at NHTI for a very long time, recently retired. So, Coach, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So, Coach, first thing I wanted to ask you was what sparked your interest in basketball? Like, where did you grow up and how did you start getting into basketball?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Plymouth, New Hampshire. I'm from a big family, 9 kids, and sports have always been my life. I played 3 sports in high school: football, basketball, and baseball. And I always loved playing basketball. I enjoyed all 3 sports, to be honest. And basketball was always special, and brothers and sisters played as well. So my dad actually coached a little bit. He was a history teacher at the college, and he was involved in athletics and especially football along the way. So sports have always been around, and I decided to go to Plymouth State to study physical education, and I knew I wanted to coach, and my dream was to be a varsity coach in 3 sports: football, basketball, and baseball. And you suddenly realize after you graduate and you get out in the real world that that's pretty much impossible to do, even if you're at a small school. It's just the time consuming and the season overlap and all the other things that go along with it. But anyway, I certainly did coach 3 sports at the middle school level for a number of years, earning my stripes, so to speak, and I've got a number of different experiences around the state of New Hampshire: Woodsville, Litchfield, Laconia, and then I was the AD at Spalding. But along the way, I coached a lot of different teams, including Plymouth State men's basketball. I was assistant coach. I helped start the women's soccer program at St. Anselm's College, and then assistant coach at Plymouth State for women's soccer as well. Coached varsity baseball at Laconia High School, state champs in 1990, and that same team went on to win the state back-to-back. They won the next year, so that was pretty cool. Our teams actually were put into the LHS Hall of Fame about a year and a half ago now, so that was a great honor for those teams.
Very cool. From a player perspective, I just want to hear about your high school sports career and just what that was like, what the different sports were like. Obviously, we know that basketball is your favorite. You coached it for such a long time, but do you think that basketball you liked it more because you just liked the game more, or was it something where you were just better at basketball than any other sport?
I really, I think I was a good high school athlete, really in all 3 sports, but you have different experiences. Sometimes it's circumstances, as far as playing time and all that sort of thing, and injuries. It's ironic that I ended up getting hurt in basketball. So my senior year, I was probably playing my best basketball, and I did my ankles really bad, and so it was as great a shape as I was in, and so forth. Things didn't always work out, for that particular season. So anyway, and that's just was the nature of the beast. But I was a good all-around athlete, and I think being in a leadership position and captain of several teams, and prominent positions like shortstop in baseball, quarterback in football, captain of the basketball team. Those things helped me with being a coach. They helped me being a leader in the athletic world, and those various experiences, and whether it be a locker room, whether it be travel, whether it be practices. I love to practice. I love being at practice. I love working out. Those things are really special to me, and the memories I have with my teammates from high school and beyond continue to this day.
What are some of your favorite memories that you remember from high school still to this day?
Well, my senior year, we were playing Littleton in what was the Potter Memorial Trophy football game, and we had dug a hole. We weren't playing great in the first half, but in the second half I had a really long run, like 65 yards, and I threw 2 bombs for touchdowns, and we came back and ended up winning the game by several touchdowns, and that was pretty cool. My senior year in basketball, we had like I said, it was up and down for me because of injuries. I was in and out of the lineup because of that, and I had a chance to get a game winner. I I took the ball inbounds. I love my coach, Tim Quinney, and I said, have me take the ball inbounds. He designed a play. It didn't go exactly the way I think he wanted it, but the shot went up, and I went and tipped it in. I probably could have dunked it, but which I never have, but I probably could have because I was up there pretty nicely, so that was pretty cool. And then in baseball, I had a pinch hit home run, which was pretty cool against Mascoma. And so you remember certain things, and but those were personal highlights. But there were so many other things with players. We played in the first ever New Hampshire State Championship game when Plymouth beat Timberlane on the road. So I only played a couple plays, but nonetheless I got in. I was a sophomore at the time, and that was the first time that the present tournament structure that we have today was in place, 1972.
That's pretty cool. So you've gotten to see the game evolve throughout all this with the league and everything. So just through the evolution of high school sports, I mean, what are some things that are really worth noting to you?
About me personally, or just
in general?
In general, I think the tournaments are great. I think Title IX, which I teach sports management here at NHTI, and I teach some business classes, and Title IX is like the greatest thing ever, 1972.
Oh, I agree,
and, my oldest sister, Nancy, who lives in Australia, and she played on, and I talk about this in classes, she played, never lost a game in high school basketball. And she played the old 6-person basketball, 2 offense, 2 defense, and 2 rovers. They never lost, so she went 4 years. Their games were always at 4 in the afternoon. My brother Jimmy, who is the star on the boys' high school team, their games were at 7:30 at night. Mm-hmm. So the 4 o'clock versus 7:30, who was the star show? And that changed. Those things started to change in 1972. My sister Peggy and Mary played in the state championship. They went double overtime. Ended up losing, but they went double overtime in a tournament state championship game. That was pretty cool. So I think Title IX was just monumental all the way across. I had 5 sisters, so it's nice that girls have a chance to be able to play for championships and have equal footing with boys at the high school and the college level for any athletic endeavors.
Absolutely. So when you first graduated from high school and were starting out in the world and everything, you knew you wanted to go to Plymouth State for sports and stuff. Was there ever any thought to doing anything besides sports?
Well, I did a little bit of the stuff that you're doing. I did some PR. I worked in the public relations office at Plymouth State. I did sports information. I wrote stories. I learned some photography pieces. I did some sports broadcasting. Which I really enjoyed all of those things, and I certainly was thinking, if the whole coaching and teaching thing doesn't work out, well, maybe I can chase this down. I enjoyed it. I didn't find it quite the same as playing, so that was different, and I didn't have any training at that time. Just doing it as part of the college television station at the time, as well as the local high school, local radio station covering various sports. So I could get called at 4, can you do the game at 6 tonight? And if I had the opportunity, I did that. Another thing I dabbled in, which I'm very happy, and I'm back doing a little bit of it now, and that is officiating. I got into, I did some football, baseball, and a lot of basketball. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the exercise. I enjoyed meeting people, seeing a different perspective of the game from the official's point of view in any of the sports. One of the things you realize too when you officiate, especially unless you've studied the rule book, you realize there are a lot of things you don't know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different things that officials do that the general population has no clue on, whether it be angles, what the different roles, responsibilities each official has, whether you're in a group of 5 like a football game, or you're doing 2-person or 3-person, for a high school or college basketball game, what each person's responsibility is. So there are all those different factors, and I felt that those things really helped me as a coach too, having a feel and understanding. most of the time.
Do you feel like looking at the game from so many different angles, being a player, being a coach, being an athletic director, being an official, doing some broadcasting for some time, do you feel like all that stuff just gives you a greater appreciation for sports in general to see like what everybody does?
I think that's a good way to say it, yes. I think I've been blessed with being able to do those types of things. I did some radio. When I was teaching in Laconia, I worked what was then known as WLNH. I would do the morning sports with Warren Bailey, the famous Warren Bailey, in Laconia, and that was kind of hard. I had to be there at 5:30 in the morning, and I might be out recruiting till 11:30, or watching a game, or coaching, or whatever I was doing. And that was a Monday through Friday gig, and then they said, "Here, take the van, and we want you to go down and interview Jim Fitzgerald, the football coach, or do some other live broadcast." And this was all done before I taught school. So I would do this, and then I would head into school and be at school at 7:30. So the days were always full. I'm one of those people, I like full days. I like activity. When I'm overstimulated, I'm probably more functional and better organized than I am when I'm not. So
I agree.
But I totally like that. And all those different experiences were great. And I think the other thing too, and the college experience at Plymouth State was awesome, because we worked with Special Olympics. We had exposure to a lot of different athletic activities and different coaching philosophies in our classes and things like that. So you're around a lot of people, you're talking and thinking sports, and you're observing too. I spend a lot of time observing and watching and learning from others. I think I'm pretty good at it. And I think that's always been one of the things that helped me. But how do you run an event? What makes an event successful? What are the safety things that go into it? And these are all factors that go into being a good coach too. The time management of an event, of a practice, of a game, of halftime, all of these things, all the lessons along the way.
Yeah, all great points. So once you started getting into coaching and having all these different coaching experiences at different places, is there anything that really sticks out to you, like, oh, this was the most fun season, this is the season where I learned the most, stuff like that?
I can't say that you love every team pretty much. Perhaps you love some more than others, and you have certainly some relationships with certain athletes, as well as students that are different than others, some that you maintain to this day. There are several, for instance, Plymouth State players that I coached back in the 90s that I'm very, very good friends with. We communicate, we get together for lunch and this and that. But I've probably coached 160 different players over the course of my time at Plymouth State, so it's impossible to be in touch and whatever with all those. And the same with NHTI, really no different. And that's really wonderful. So along the way, there's also been coaching relationships. Friends that you become, you either serve as their assistant or they are your assistants, and there's certainly a relationship that goes along with it that you develop, and many of them to this day I'm still very tight with, and we communicate and talk and help each other out, and that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun.
Oh, I totally agree with you. As I've just been doing this the past couple of years, I've found that those relationships are just what makes it fun, just like you just said. When we were here last weekend, you pointed out to me at the game that the officials and all about that. I just thought that was really cool that you have such a high level of knowledge about the game, where like all the officials are from, how often they've worked with each other and everything, and all the coaches and all the players and their styles. I think that's very cool.
Well, it's really important to know the people that you're involved with. When I'm trying to mentor a young coach, I try to make a point is you need to know the officials' names. You need to know a little bit about them. Not that you're going to be their best friend, but they're not getting paid a lot of money. They're sacrificing their time. They're going to try and do the best they can. And so you want to be able to have a relationship with them. And many times you're going to see them over and over again. So when we go to Maine, our team would go to Maine or go to Vermont, I'm on a first name basis with almost all of the officials. And it's not like I have a list. I'm trying to make that connection. And some you have a better relationship with than others. And coaches, the same thing. You know, when I first came here to NHTI, just to show you some of the technological differences, I was talking to one of my former players. We went out to a game some games last week, and I was talking about, you know, when he would play, we didn't have scouting reports. We'd go into a game, and I had to, on the fly, figure out in layup lines who the other players on the other team were that were the good players, because there wasn't a video exchange, there wasn't Huddle and all these other places that you can watch video and so forth. So the preparation was done during the 20 minutes of pregame most often. Whereas when I was at Plymouth State, we would get we would do some video exchanges. The problem I had at Plymouth State was that I was a part-time coach. I had a full-time job during the day, so I was going in at 5 in the morning to my office, putting in the disc into the TV and watching video as much as I could, as well as doing my other stuff, because when I came back to Plymouth State later after school, then I was running practice and then spending time with the players and maybe going out to a game or whatever, recruiting. So I mean, it was a full cycle.
So now that it's totally evolved from what you just said, where it started out where you didn't really have a clue about anybody till the warm-ups and everything, to where there's so much footage now on the internet of different players and scouting them, which style do you prefer more?
Well, I think the more you know, the better you can coach. So what I didn't say was I kept extensive notes. So I kept extensive notes and a basic plan of action for every single game. So the first time we played Mass Bay, that coach, what did he do? What was his style? Most coaches tend to stick to the same style. So if he's playing man-to-man the first half and then he switches to zone, what zone does he use? How does he use the zone? And you keep notes on players, because if that player was back the next year or the year after, then at least I had some notes. So that's how it started. When I was at Plymouth State, I had extensive folders on every place that we played along the way. And the coach, what did the coach like to do? What were they best at doing? And I'm sure people did the same on me, as far as, and you have an advantage the first time around, because you can blindside somebody. They don't see it coming. Oh, he's going to press out of a timeout. He's going to do this. They might know your personnel over time, but they may not know what you're thinking, and so that can be advantageous, and you use that to your advantage.
So I'm going to segue back to NHTI. What first brought you to NHTI?
Well, it's a long story, but I ended up teaching in Laconia, and I was assistant coach at Plymouth State, and then Phil Rowe, who's the head coach at Plymouth State, was full-time, and he did women's soccer and men's basketball. He left to go to Boston University as an assistant. So they made the woman head coach full-time for soccer and basketball, and they made the men's position part-time. So I did that for 8 years. And during that time, my full-time teaching position got cut 3 times. And at the end of the 3rd time, it was like, Plymouth, are you going to make me full-time or not? And if not, what's my decision going to be? So I left a really good team, and it was really hard to leave. And my job eventually came back, but I couldn't live with the uncertainty, because I owned property and so forth, whether or not my teaching job was going to come back. So I left and went to Spalding High School, and was there for 18 months, and took the legendary football coach Hugo Boland's place as the AD. I was not allowed to coach for that year, so it's the only year that I didn't coach. But I certainly worked with the teams. I got in and helped them practice, and then there was a variety of different things, and managed all sorts of different events that, once again, all the experiences I had along the way were helpful. I managed the State Spirit Championships and the State Wrestling Championships, just to name a few. We started a freshman football tournament, which I don't know if they're still running to this day, but it was the first ever we did that. So there are a lot of different things that we did during that time. And then the opening was going on here at NHTI, and it was an opportune situation. And I met with the president at the time, Bill Simonton, 3 different times. I've had a camp business for, this will be 41 years, and so I was running my camp here at NHTI, and so in between camp sessions, I'm meeting with Bill, and we worked it out, and so I came in, and I think when I came here, this was, shall we say, a picture that was not all put together, and so he basically gave me the option to develop it the way I saw fit, and so I like that. So I had some big decisions to make along the way, but hiring coaches, and you're working on our fields and our gymnasium, which was blank. It was a blank slate in there for the most part. So a lot of the things that we put in with storage and other things that, banners and things like that to dress it up, make it look nice. Add locker rooms, a lot of different things that we did along the way that made it better. So that was why I ended up coming here. And, I did have a few opportunities to leave, but this was proved to be a good place, and it all worked out.
Yeah, something that I've noticed is that a lot of times, like, the older coaches have experiences where they're at a spot and they're there for a long time. Sometimes they're there for multiple decades, and that was something that used to be a lot more common. Now with a lot of the younger coaches and just the way things are now, coaches tend to stay at places for a very shorter amount of time, just on average. Why do you think that is?
Well, at the high school level, I think there are different issues. You have you have the issues sometimes with things that the dynamics for athletes are different now. Athletes are getting pulled and pushed by the outside groups, the clubs, AAU groups, things like that, and not just in basketball, but in many of the other sports, and which becomes more important, and people have to make that decision. At the same time, officials are under fire. There are less and less officials, and some officials don't want to officiate anymore because the harassment, whether it be the language from the fans, whether it be the following people to their cars outside after games, those things. And it's similar with coaches. A lot of coaches have to shut their phones off at a certain time, and they also have to set rules. It's really, and this is what I would always tell as an athletic director when I was at the high school level, and that was 25 years ago, and I always follow this, and that is that it's really, you have to put the wall up, and it's between the athlete and the coach. So if you're playing and you don't understand your playing time, then you need to have the conversation. What do I need to do differently? What am I not doing? How can I help the team? And it's not always going to go over well. It just isn't. And I grew up in a different time. And I remember this being a freshman in high school, and I was not happy with my playing time at the beginning of the season. I thought there were some things that should have been done differently. And I wasn't going to complain to my parents. I just knew they wanted me. You go and talk to them, just like go and talk to your teacher. Have the adult conversation. It's what we do in the workplace. And so you train them early. So I think there are a variety of factors that are playing into it. And when you're coaching, it doesn't matter what the sport is, but if you're coaching at the high school level, there's also, you have to realize that people have a life outside. They have a family. They might have 2 kids. They might have no kids. They might have health issues that are somewhere going along with someone in the family or other things. So sometimes we have to be a little tolerant. We have to be a little understanding. But if you have a good high school experience and the coaches are working at it and the players are working at it, then to me that's a win-win, because you can't always control the score.
So if you were in charge of, sports in the United States, the very broad question here, but you had the ability to go out there and tell America, like, what we need to do to make sports as good as it possibly could be for the next generation of kids who might be in elementary school, middle school now, and then beyond that also high school and college, to make for the greatest next 20, 25 years of sports. What's your advice to making sports as good as it can be in the United States?
Well, I think there's several factors, and you've got to try to, and hopefully I'm going to hit all the buttons here, but let's just talk about coaches. Coaches need to work on their game. Players work on their game, coaches need to work on their game. What are they doing in the off season to make themselves a better coach? Who are their mentors? Who are they working with on the outside that help them be a better coach? You know, as a coach, you got to look in the mirror. Win, lose. It's not all about winning and losing, but you've got to look at, you know, is a practice good? Coaches have to realize everybody's a recruiter, and I say this all the time. Everybody's recruiting. If you're a high school coach, you want the players that are in second and third grade, fourth grade, to have an interest in your sport. So how do you do that? Well, you've got to get down to the grassroots. You've got to be involved at the lower levels to some degree, whatever that might be, so that those kids growing up want to wear your uniform. They want to compete for it. That's important. And how do you make it fun and important? I want to use this as an example because I think there's too much glitz and glamour. For instance, you know, turning the lights out, putting the spotlights on the players for the introductions. You know, that's all nice. You know, that's an NBA thing. It's being done, you know, at various levels, sometimes at the high school level. It's not all about that. It's really about what kids feel right here. You know, do they love the sport? Do they enjoy the sport? And how can they be self-empowered and enjoy playing and practicing the sport? So you're talking about the athletes now, you're talking about the coaches, and then the parents have to step away. And they have to empower their athletes, their kids, to have the adult conversations. And then also follow the proper, you know, chain of command. And the administrators, whether it be the athletic directors, you know, principal, superintendent, they have to do the same thing. So if someone skips a step, sorry, I'm not talking to you because you didn't follow the steps. And step number one would be, did the athlete talk to the coach? And what is the problem? You know, if it's a serious issue such as abuse, that's different. But if it's not abuse, and if it's just about playing time or something like that, then you don't even think about it, you know, because you're not at practice. And great example of that is, you know, if any business, I'm not going to go into somebody else's business and tell them how to run it. You know, that's not my job. It's not my job, even as a knowledgeable basketball coach, but I've coached other sports. When I go and watch a high school game, I don't know what happened at that practice the night before. I don't know if somebody got hurt, somebody's sick today. Why isn't this kid playing as much? Why is the coach? How do I know?
Right.
So it's hard to second guess. We won the state championship in 1990 in baseball. We were a very good team. Exceptional pitching, defense, but we could score runs. We stole a ton of bases. But one of our star players, the day of the championship game, he was sick. And the kid batted over 500. So who doesn't want him in the lineup, right? So he was our shortstop. So I made the decision before game time to move him to second base, and I moved the second baseman to shortstop. And we ended up winning the game, and everything all worked out. But if somebody was in the stands, they'd look, well, why is Jimmy at second and Aaron's at shortstop? What's going on here? So those are the things you don't know, and you also don't know if there's a discipline issue. And what happens if the coach has running a practice and somebody's having a bad day and they get tossed out of practice? What's the team rule on that? So my team rule when I was coaching here at NHTI and Plymouth State is if you got thrown out of practice, you had to meet with me before the next practice or the next event, or you didn't play, or you didn't practice. So if that player didn't do that, then unfortunately they didn't play or practice. Sorry, you're not practicing. You know, practice is at 4. You had all day to come and see me, to set an appointment up to see me, to talk about what happened yesterday. So we clear the air, move forward.
So
these are all life lessons.
You're hitting a lot of really good fundamentals that I think are the characteristics of a really good coach. And like you said, part of sports is the life lessons. So here at NHTI, super successful for a long time. Do you ever get bored being here for such a long time, and what make the program successful?
Never got bored. We were always creating new things. As an athletic director, we were trying to create tournaments, in-season tournaments, and jamborees and festivals so that our teams had things to look forward to, and it would help with recruiting. But coaches want to coach, and players want to play. So what can we do to make the season fun? And sometimes it was easier to do it right here and to have a tournament, say, here, and bring in a team from New York and a team from Pennsylvania, and then 2 New England teams, and we crossed over or whatever we did, and kids got T-shirts, they got plaques, outstanding players, and the teams got those things, and we might give them some pizzas. We made it fun, and though we did it for all the sports, which was key, and I think that was really good. So was I ever bored? No. It was always, what can we do to create other things? I know this weekend is the NHBCO senior games here. So that was something that in 2001 we brought that here. And most years it's been here since then. And that's really good showcase for NHTI. It was always on a Sunday in the old days. This year it's on a Saturday, I believe. But my point is, that was another fun thing. So our sports management kids were involved, our coaches were here. It was just a great thing for us. And so what else could we do? We brought the Twin State tryouts for Lions Cup for soccer. We brought a lot of those different events here. Coaches meetings, all the different coaching groups pretty much across the board, baseball, and softball, and basketball, and the officials groups. I wanted to make this a hub of activity, 7 days a week, from the middle of August until the middle of May. And we pretty much did. And then in the summertime, setting up jamborees. So volleyball, would have a 2-day jamboree sometime in August, as a fundraiser. But they also did one in the middle of the summer too. So they did a couple of those. Basketball, we did it. We had other things with baseball and softball too. So showing our coaches how to do things and then helping set them up. We started the Gen Kemp Road Race, which now I think this will be year 19 coming out. And that has raised a lot of money. Memory of our secretary who passed away on Thanksgiving weekend, and she was a sports management major. She loved sports. She was very quiet, very nice young lady, and she died way too early. It was very sad, so we named the scholarship after her. So sports management majors can apply for that and get some money towards twice a year, in the fall and the spring, towards their tuition here. So those are also things. What can we do for our sports management majors that makes school more exciting? So doing events, getting involved in events. And I would always say to the students, here's an opportunity, take some notes. You might like events. Some people really like doing events, and that could be your career. So try these things. We also, as I was the advisor for sports management as well as the sports management club, and we would take some field trips. So we took our students down to Boston, for instance. We took a tour of Northeastern hockey arena. We rang the bell. We had lunch there. Then we went to TD Garden. We did another one. We went over to the Springfield Basketball Hall of Fame. We did another one. We went down to the U.S. Tennis Open, and then across the street to where the Mets play. So we had 2 back-to-back tours. Students loved it. Sometimes it was overnight. Sometimes it was a day trip, whatever it might be. Those are all the things that filled my calendar and made it fun. We've got the AD meetings in here now. They were here the other day. We've got all those things have been continued on, which I think is really good exposure for NHTI. It also gave me a chance when I was the AD and basketball coach to be able to bump into some of these people, speak to them, speak to their group, tell them, we got this going on, we're adding this sport, talk to them about our majors. Great PR, great PR. And during my time too, another thing that I love to do with career days. So I would do career days probably 3 or 4 times a year. A school would ask me to come up and either be the keynote speaker or be part of their career days. And it could be high school, it could be middle school, because let's face it, students need to try to figure out what are you going to do down the road. And NHTI is a viable options for so many. And I continue to do some of that mentoring from beyond, but
Yeah.
those are some of the things that I filled my calendar with.
So now that you've been doing this stuff for all these years, you know, you had all the things you just mentioned. You've done the Hogan Camp, which has just exploded in popularity over the last few decades and everything. You've done all this stuff, and now you've retired. Looking back on it, like, what does this all mean to you?
Well, I love New Hampshire. I'm a New Hampshire native, obviously. I've spent my entire working career in New Hampshire, so great memories. And every time I go to a game, I bump into somebody, whether it be a camper, an official, a parent, somebody, you know, former student. That part's really cool. I had a cup of coffee with a former coach this morning, and at Dunkin' Donuts, and in comes a former basketball player. Comes right over to me, quick hug. What's going on with you in your life? And so those are the things that just are so special. So every day is a great opportunity, and I get up with a smile on my face, and I'm still doing some basketball stuff, you know, obviously with the camps and my little in-house Gold Rush basketball program. So I'm still doing some teaching and that type of thing, still teaching a few classes, but every day really is a holiday. It's really pretty special.
Anything else about your retirement that you're up to now that you want people to know?
Well, I am officiating some middle school basketball, and I actually have a fifth and sixth grade tournament tonight that I'll be doing some games at, and enjoy that. Once again, it's the social piece, a little bit of light exercise, just really good opportunity to be out in the world and you know, around sports.
Thanks, Coach Hogan. Appreciate your time.
Wonderful. Thank you.